Hello, beautiful people. I am so excited to share with you today. My name is Taylin. I am the founder of TKM Consulting, a leadership development firm that helps individuals and companies that are in that intersection of scaling and growing to build out and scale their leadership practices in a way that is healthy through coaching and professional development. I am so excited, y'all, because I keep getting the questions. Hey, Lynn, how did you do it? Girl, what's going on? How did you do it? How did you know it was time to go? And so this is not the first video, right, of me sharing that I've transitioned out of a place, but this is the first time that I have transitioned from my 9 to 5. I let it go to start my own business. So I'm so excited to share with you all today how I knew it was time to go, what signs God was giving me specifically, and what I needed to have in place to make that move. And then we'll wrap up with a little bit about where I am today. All right. So let's share with you. I started my career as an educator. I taught middle school and high school math and science for many years. And I exited as a nonprofit executive leader at an ed tech company to start my leadership development firm, TKM Consulting. So let's get down to it, y'all. How did I know it was time to transition? So, a little bit of background, when I entered this organization, I was there for 4 years. I started with a cohort of 7 other people, right? So it was wonderful. There were so many of us. And by year one, it had dwindled, right? By year two, even more. I would say by 2.5 years, 3 years, there were two of us left. So, uh, at year three, I was the last one in there, y'all. I remember distinctly my dear colleague and friend, he was pulled me to the side and was telling me, this was Thanksgiving. I remember distinctly it was Thanksgiving, I believe of 2021. And I was just like, Lord, I was upset with God. I was like, Lord, what is going on, Jesus? Because this was not part of the plan. I was not supposed to be here. The last one, God, I am ready to go. Right. And God had to really sit with me and was like, ma'am, you have more to learn here. There's more for you to learn. And I was just like, okay. I wasn't ready to hear that, but I knew that I needed to hear it. And it was exactly, God was right. There was more for me to learn, more for me to grow in that particular position. But so, this happened at the end of 2021. I started looking for, I knew my time was coming pretty soon, but I didn't know quite in what way. I still loved my team that I worked with, and was super grateful for the opportunity to lead them. And so wasn't quite sure what next looks like. And I'm a planner. I love to prepare and think through, okay, so let's see, potentially, what are some positions that I would be interested in? And as I was looking for positions, y'all, I could not find anything that felt like it was the right next step. Just nothing quite seemed like it fit. And so I always knew that I wanted to have my own business. Surely not at this point. Surely, Lord, it could not be right now. I thought it was going to be much longer down in my career. And so I actually began to just talk to some friends about my vision and my idea. And I was recommended to work with a business coach to kind of get my ideas started. And so I did that January of 2022. Yes. I began to work with my business coach, and we met. It was a group program. We met twice a week. And it was really an opportunity where I took these ideas about things that I was good at, things that I was passionate about, and built them into a business. So I'm so grateful for her. She is amazing, baby. And I will be a stand for her for life. Okay. So, my amazing business coach, and I really explored what it looked like to be a coach. And I don't mean a coach on Instagram, no shade to them, but I mean like a certified ICF certified coach, and explore what this looks like as a career, right? And so I ended up doing a coaching certification program with Fielding University. It was an 8-month program. And I really saw it as an opportunity to support my current team at the time in that organization, I wanted to explore what it meant for a leader to be a coach. How can I coach my team? How can I bring this expertise to the entire organization? And therefore get that practice in a more formalized way. I had done the work for many years prior, but in a more formalized way. So I did this program. When I tell you, God did surgery on my heart, and He really focused in this program. We focused on self as instrument. And what that means is you as a coach, you're a tool, right? The way that you show up as a coach is based on your experiences. It is based on your understanding of the world of life. And I really had to work through some things. God really allowed that opportunity for me to explore what does that look like? What does that mean, right? And so I did that. And not only was it an opportunity for me to understand who I was, but also I got to see in real life. My professors were had doctorates in organizational culture and psychology and coaching, right? And so I got to see it not just as a side hustle, but really as a career, working with professional organizations, working with companies, individuals. What could that look like? It expanded my ability to really see this as a field, as a business. And so, in the background, right, I'm doing this program, I'm exploring this. And y'all, the moment I said, okay, Lord, I'm going to do this business thing, I said, I'm going to give myself a year, right? So, January 2022, I'm going to give myself a year to really explore what this is going to look like. And the moment I said yes to the Lord, everybody was coming saying, hey, I want you to do this. I want you to run this organization or this sector of our organization or Taylin. And I'm not just talking about like I saw a post on LinkedIn. I'm talking about in my email addressed to Taylin, Quinn, Mitchell, right? My whole government addressed to me were people that I had worked with in the past who had heard about my work, who reached out to me to literally run different organizations, different sectors. I'm talking about like even very well known organizations, even in all sectors, in the space that I was in, the nonprofit sector. I'm talking about even in the food industry, an organization that has great waffle fries. That's all I'm gonna say. Reached out to me, and I'm telling you, y'all, when God has called you to do something, temptations will come. They will come, right? The moment you say yes, but it is that choice that you get to make. Okay, am I gonna trust this thing that I'm not quite sure about? That but I have a promise on it, right? A promise for me from the Lord. Like, this is what I've promised for you. It's good. I don't know what the full details are. Or am I going to trust this thing that I can see with my eyes? And for me, that's where faith comes in. And we're talking about opportunities that were double my salary, right? So that this guaranteed income. And now, Lord, you want me to do this thing where I don't quite know exactly what it's going to look like. And that's where faith comes in. And so, what signs did God give me? Often, when God says that it's time to shift, we are like, yay, okay, Lord, let's go. And He's like, not yet. So I would say if God has told you to make a shift, it is often at minimum, right? 3 to 6 months out. Like He's not saying it's immediate jump. And it's really sometimes a year, So I had felt in my spirit it was time to shift and wasn't quite sure what that could look like, but open to it. There is a situation that happened in which I was with some of the executive leaders at my company, and I walked away from that meeting feeling like upset. And I'm not a person who gets upset easily, and particularly at work. I'm just like, work is, I mean, at the end of the day, it's not life or death. We move. But this is the first time in my tenure at that organization where I felt really disrespected. I felt like my voice was dishonored in that moment. And this is a situation in which it should have been, right? Like the space that I was in and what I was advising on directly impacted my team and my region. And um, the direction that it was going in, just it was not realistic, and it did not align with what was needed at that time. And so I really walked away. I remember that day. That was when things really shifted for me. I said, "Okay, Lord." I literally was angry, and I left that meeting feeling like I'm finding me a new job right now. I am finding a new job right now. And God had me pause and be like, breathe. This happened on a Friday, so I had the weekend to kind of process it. And I did subsequently have a conversation with those individuals, letting them know how I felt walking away from that meeting. Though I know it wasn't their intent, we know that intent versus impact are two different things, right? And so that was how I was impacted. But that same night, I'm a dreamer. God speaks to me directly in dreams. And so I had a dream that night. I remember it clearly. If I'm gonna date myself for a second. If y'all know those big calendars that you used to put on your desk, right? That you can kind of flip through, and there would be a cardboard at the end, that way you knew it was done. And so God showed me at that big calendar, and it had a few months left on there, and then it was the cardboard. And when I tell you the month that God showed me, that last month on that calendar was the exact month that I ended up leaving that company, which is like, Lord, you are amazing. but um but that was where things started for me. So I had that dream that God said the time was running down on this opportunity, right? But I still wanted to show up in integrity. I still wanted to lead my team as best as I could. I wanted to support them, right? I wanted to um just be the leader that, though I felt like, God, I'm ready. I'm ready, Lord. I wanted to still show up with integrity and honor the call that I God had placed on me for that particular season. Meanwhile, at the ranch, though, y'all, everybody was leaving. Things were shifting in the organization. The CEO was leaving at the time. And so there is so much transition and change going on. But I said, God, you still have me here. You have not released me. Help me, guide me, show me what to do. And so I remember I went on vacation. I went out of the country. Half that week, I was working remotely, and then the other half of the week, I was off on vacation, on PTO. When I tell you, I was so heavy during this trip. I felt sick, like physically sick. I felt anxious, so many emotions. And I knew I could not do it anymore. I was literally like, Lord, y'all, I'm enjoying beautiful beaches and clear water, and I'm feeling and thinking about having to go back to work in this situation. It's it was a turning point. I said, God, I was crying out to the Lord, like, I don't know how long I can do this, Lord. I'm trying to honor you and honor this work and these amazing people, but God, this is hard. So when I got back, I prayed that prayer, and I didn't know where it was going to lead me. When I got back, my manager that day, the day I got back that Monday, she messaged me like, "Hey, I need to talk to you." And it's not just like, "Hey, girl, let's talk." No, it was like, "I need to talk to you." And so I said, okay. At first, I was a little scared. I was like, Lord, I don't know what this is about. What happened? But I said, you know what? I'm not gonna stress about it. Honestly, it was a relief for me. I said, I'm gonna buck up. we gonna woman up. We gonna go up in there and handle business. Whatever it is, I felt confident. I know the way that I've carried myself. I know what I bring and what I add to this organization. And I'm not gonna worry about it. And what ended up happening was false claims were brought against me from someone that I managed. And luckily, we were able to distill down quite quickly that those were not true. But it was the way that it was handled by my direct manager and leadership at the organization. It was very clear to me that this was not a place anymore that I could grow, that I could add to the discourse, that I could learn, and that my voice was respected, especially being part of the executive leadership team or the leadership team, in a way that I could continue to move forward with integrity based on some of the things that were happening. And so, funny enough, we had a week off that following week. So I took some time to just process it. I knew God was releasing me to move forward. I gave a month notice. And in the background, right, I told you I had been working with, this is in the middle of the year. I think my last month was July or August of 2022. And so I gave them a month. I all of this time was working on my business, was trying to figure out, okay, what does this look like, right? I had clients, right? Of course, outside of company time, but was really building and thinking through, like, what do I want to create? What is my mission? What is the philosophy of my work and my business? And at the same time, I actually had a proposal for that was pretty far along for an opportunity to work with a client that literally would have been my entire year's salary in a commitment with a client. I was really excited. I felt really confident about that. And as I transitioned out, I actually heard back from that client that things had changed internally at the organization. They had new leadership and they decided to move forward in a different direction. So I was like, okay, Lord. So you got me out here. You got me out here, Lord. And now you're saying that ain't gonna be okay. That's a season for another time. Um, but or that is a story for another time about how the Lord stretched my faith when he says from faith to faith. I thought it was faith for me to leave my job, right? Having no clear, fully spread out like idea of what business could look like. But God was saying, okay, that's good. Good job. We on to the next opportunity for faith, the next opportunity to trust me. And so let's talk about what you need to have in place. I want to talk about two major things as we close out. You need to know your exit number. When I say exit number, I'm talking about how much of your expenses, at least, and I would say even more, but at least 6 months of your daily expenses. I'm not talking about eating rice and beans. I'm talking about your basic expenses, right? Your living expenses, at least 6 months. Really, it should be 9 to 12 months because business, it takes time. It takes time to build a clientele, to build up that rapport. And I'm thankful because I, had been building that in the background and have been doing this work for many years, right? The work that I get to do now with my clients is work that I've always done. And now I get to do it in a more formalized way. So have those expenses. That's number one. And number two, have that clarity of what you are offering. Who is your client, right? How are you getting in touch with that client? Have you sold to actual customers? I don't mean like the idea of your product. I mean, have you sold to customers? Preferably consistently for at least 3 months so that you can see what it really looks like, right? So you can see if this is sustainable. And here's when I'm a big practical person. As you know, I think there is a balance, or not necessarily a balance, but both are needed, the practical and the spiritual. As I had mentioned previously, there were very clear spiritual signs that God gave me that it was time, right? But on the practical side of things as well, there were clear practical signs. I had my money saved, right? I had not only the 6 months, but I had an emergency fund just in case. Um, and I didn't necessarily have all the steps. I didn't have 3 months, right? I'm advising this for you, but I also know that you have to know what God is saying for you. He told me very clearly it was time, and I'm grateful for that. So both are needed, right? And a little bit about where I am now. So originally, I started my business really as a career coach for people of color that were in the tech industry. As I mentioned, my previous role and leadership at a tech ed company was interfacing constantly with engineers on the technical side of big the thing the now it's called something different now, but those companies, interfacing with them. And what I saw over and over again is folks of color, particularly Black and Brown, worked so hard to get into these engineering positions and then weren't quite sure where next was, right? They weren't quite sure um, what next looked like. And so I felt like it was really important to had that opportunity to support them in that transition, that leadership leap, right? Because what got you here is not going to get you to where next looks like. And so I was doing a lot of that work. And what I realized was one, I'm going to leave that for two. Number one was that the folks that I felt like I thought were my ideal client, they couldn't quite realize or didn't see the value, and then they didn't have the ability to invest in the value that I was offering at that time. So that was number 1. Most importantly, I wasn't that passionate about it, y'all. I had done tech, the work that I was doing previously. There are elements of it that I loved. I loved working with my team. We got to also work with students. I loved that part of the work. But the tech side, I saw the value in it, particularly, as an opportunity for us as folks of color, Black and brown folks, to create and generate generational wealth, right? I saw that as an opportunity to do that, but I didn't necessarily feel like this is me, this is my purpose, we're doing it. And so I listened to other people tell me, okay, there's money in tech, you should go be a coach for the tech industry, and it wasn't there for me. And so this is when I had to really lean into and pivot and say, I've been doing this for a couple months. And I had left my job already, right? I had been doing this for a couple months and I decided, this is not quite the direction that I want to go into. And so I started to really focus on here's where I'm gifted at. The work that I did around culture, I had been doing at my organization, had been consulting for other orgs for many years prior to. And so I'm passionate about that. I'm passionate about leadership. What I saw over and over in my previous organization was there was so much growth. We were scaling from different regions, which was awesome. And there was internal promotion, which also, again, was great. But there wasn't any development. You can be really good at your job, but to lead people, even doing that same job, is a very different skill. So, what I decided to do and really realize was that development of leaders was something that was critical, and particularly executive leaders who are transitioning from the day to day, the tactical, into a more strategic mind, right? Into a way that you could lead the organization in a direction, in a vision. And so that's what I love to do. And I'm grateful that I get to do that now. So my work now at TKM Consulting, we work with various organizations. Some of our clients are very well known nonprofits, government agencies, and private organizations. And what we get to do is really support them in coaching their executive leaders, creating capacity on their leadership team. So, really thinking through and supporting them with that capacity building. And then being able to build out and define what is their culture. So, doing some of those culture audits and recommending what is that way for, but not just recommending it for them, helping them through those early stages of implementation. And so I'm super grateful that I get to work with amazing clients. And organizations and really walk them through change management. What does it look like to make major changes? And so I am excited to continue to share with you on this channel a little bit about that journey. And more importantly, I looked and scoured on YouTube about like, what were the real life things entrepreneurs were going through, not just the day in the life, the cutesy things. And so you can look for an opportunity to hear more about kind of mindsets, what I'm thinking about, what I'm learning about as an entrepreneur. And please, if you have recommendations or any of that, I would love your feedback in the comments. I will see you soon. Have a beautiful day.